Ready? Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum established. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, open forum to public comment. I don't see anything. No?
Mr. Ackerman, you don't have anything?
No,
You just drew the short straw?
sure did.
All right.
Okay, we'll move on to approve agenda and changes to the agenda. The only thing is one addition under number 7. We'll add letter E, approve cancellation of outstanding checks.
And it's on your agenda, it's just what was published did not have that on there. So, yeah, just to make note of it, so.
So I'll accept the motion.
So move.
Moved by Schoenfelder and seconded by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Moving on to conflict of interest. I don't see any, and there's no others. We'll move on to item 7, approving the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pearl and seconded by Schoenfelder to approve the consent agenda. With that addition, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Number 8, staff reports.
Mr. Good, yeah, I thought I saw you walk in.
Hello everyone, how are we doing today?
Good.
Okay, so I got a couple different things for you. I'm gonna hand this to you so you can just get your eyes on this. This is our results from our National Career Readiness Certificate Work Keys Assessment. And so what this basically was is your seniors every year take what's called Work Keys Assessment, and basically they are tested over 3 areas: applied math, graphic literacy, and workplace documents. And then they're given a score from 0 to 7 based on how they did, 7 being the best, 0 being really bad. And then based off of how they do in each of the 3 tests, then they are given either a platinum certificate, gold certificate, silver, bronze, or none at all. So this is how our seniors did. We just got these results back about a week ago. Did pretty well. I'd say over half of our seniors got a platinum or gold, so I think that's pretty solid there. But yeah, those are the results. So I just wanted you guys to see how we're doing with that. Any questions with that at all?
It actually plays a part in our accumulation in our school performance index. So there's scores associated with college and career readiness, and the NCRC is part of that. So it's certainly helpful. They did a nice job with that.
Yeah, we were happy with the results as a whole for the most part. So,
What is graphic literacy?
you know, I would love to get a little bit more in terms of that too. Obviously there's a reading comprehension component to reading something that would be in an applied area and then being able to do something with it. They were telling me some things about how you read a set of directions and then be able to say what you would do here, there, so on and so forth. I know like for example, fixing a tire was one of the things that is discussed and they read about when they got to apply it and go. But I'm not sure if that was part of the graphic literacy or the workplace document.
That's workplace. I watched the kids today. I've seen the test, and the graphic literacy was. It is graph after graph after graph, and intricate as to how you glean information. You have to go find it within the sets of graph what they're asking for to decipher and determine what's in there.
Well, that would give why it's called graphic literacy.
That gives kids grief.
It does, but it's also good for them. We had a good conversation about that as a staff, because if you went to the science part of the ACT, it is the exact same thing.
Yeah,
the science part of the
exactly.
ACT is being able to interpret graphs. And then answer questions off of it. So, by improving our graphic literacy and our science ACTs, that's all going to come from the same improvement goal. And so that's something that we discussed and we find value in. So yeah, it's something I think we'll get better at. I think, tomorrow I have a staff meeting one of the things we're going to talk about is what do these results mean, and discuss some of those things. So that'll be good. It is a busy time in the CTE world as we start basically from now until the end of the year. All of our student organizations, FFA, FBLA, FCCLA, Head Rising, they all have conferences, they all have events, and so some of the stuff I'm going to tell you here is things coming up. Ms. Ackerman, you want to talk about FFA or you want me to talk about it? You want to talk about it real quick?
Sure.
Go ahead and give them the rundown you sent me if you want to. She'll discuss about what's going to happen in the FFA world real quick.
Yeah, so next week is National FFA Week, so the officers have some stuff planned. We're going to start Friday with a pancake breakfast. Monday we do a teacher appreciation event, drive your tractor to school day. We're going to do Egg Olympics for the whole school and SRB, and then our favorite, the petting zoo for the elementary students, takes place in the shop. Competition-wise, our career development event team, so they're the ones who do like the hands-on, so like poultry, livestock, food science, all those teams. I think we have 14 different teams competing this year. So they all started practice last week. And then awards-wise, 3 students are applying in 4 different award areas for their SAE projects. So basically that's their supervised ag experience that they're required to complete for our class. It's basically like they keep track of like a hands-on project related to agriculture, and their FFA rewards them with different chances to apply for awards and scholarships and money. So Casey Gearing, Reed Leichner, and Emily Walls are applying. And then Reed and Preston applied for senior awards. They're called STAR Awards. So basically they had to complete a really in-depth, detailed application, and there's 4 different areas. Preston applied in STAR Placement, which is for people who work for someone, so he keeps track of his stuff on the family farm. And then Reed applied for STAR Farmer, talking about his tractor restoration project and his responsibilities with the goat herd. So they both advanced to the next stage. Preston placed first and Reed placed third, so they'll be doing they'll go through another selection process in a couple weeks, and hopefully they'll get picked as top 4 finalists to get recognized at state convention. So been really busy.
How many are in FFA now?
We have 56 members this year.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
So keeps getting higher. Hope it stays that way.
Good job, Ms. Hackman. Thank you very much. On top of how busy the FFA is, FCCLA, they took 36 kids to a regional FCCLA event up in Mitchell a couple weeks ago. 5 members got golds and move on to state in their individual stuff. Sounds like a lot of the teams, they qualify at the state level right away, and they're heading that. Knowledge Bowl got runner-up. Cadence Youngke, props to her. She gave a presentation to the whole group on social emotional health. So FCCLA had a busy time. It's kind of fun to watch them when they all walk out the door with their red blazers and their ties and their suits on. They look really good, so that was fun. Ed Rising's busy. Ed Rising is our new program where we're trying to foster that desire to maybe become a teacher, and like we said, we hope those ones will come back someday. They went to one in the first semester at DWU that was really great, and they went to one similar at Mount Marty a couple weeks ago. Really good feedback from that. It's kind of fun as a Mount Marty grad to watch them walk around in their new Mount Marty gear, but they really enjoyed the day. There's 8 of them going to the state conference at Black Hill State in a few weeks, and 6 will go to SDSU. So when you look at some of the prime teaching colleges in the state, indeed Mount Marty, Black Hill State, SDSU, they will all get, we'll get kiddos on those campuses and be a part of that program. So we're kind of hoping that will, like I said, eventually turn into some education majors. That will maybe be some people that come back to the education department here and work for us hopefully someday. So like I said, busy time in the CTE world. FBLA, I know they got some stuff coming up as well. So. Last thing I have really is the Humanity Launch Assembly. We had an assembly last Monday. It was by a couple of people. They call themselves Humanity Launch, but they spent the day. They spent half the day with the high schoolers and half the day with the middle schoolers. And then they present a lot of really quality messages. Throughout the course of the day, they talk about mental health, anti-bullying, and then some soft skills that you'd maybe say we're losing a little bit in terms of just being a little bit more present with all of the technology we got, how to be a better listener. One of the takeaways from the day, they really hammered home that they wanted you as a classmate, as a person with people around you, be more interested in them rather than trying to be more interesting to all of them. So it's the idea of learn how to listen, learn how to make eye contact, learn how to be vulnerable and talk to each other, which is a big thing we've been trying to go on. So that was awesome. Our teachers had worked with Greg and Kim last year And so for them to come back and work with the students, we think this is something that we can really keep building on, carrying on. So it was a good day. ACT prep, we've got that built. The sign-up's going to go out this week, so there will be an ACT prep course leading up to the April test date, April 15th. And there'll basically be one night for each of the 4 weeks leading up where we work on each of the 4 tests. We're going to start registering for our classes in the next month here. That's going to be coming up. And with that too, I think I'm just about set on, hopefully by March I can present the handbook changes to you. That would go with, as we register for classes, a few changes we want to make as well. Other than that, I think that's it. You guys got any questions for me? Sorry it took so long today.
Busy.
It is busy, very busy. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. Sorry, a little late here, just came from a meeting. Couple things, we'll start with elementary update. We recently celebrated our 100th day of school. It was a fun celebration in the building. Lots of things going on. Teachers had a lot of fun activities planned with the number 100 and did a lot of fun things throughout that day. February is our Live to Give is our theme of the month. And so we kind of kicked that off by last week doing a penny war. And it was a huge success. A little organized chaos to start our mornings with everybody running back and forth between the classrooms, dropping change in the buckets outside of the teachers' classrooms. But in the end, we raised $5,400. And so that's going to be, a large chunk of that is going to be donated to the Bertram family. And then we have some ideas with a little bit of money we'll use as well to help cancer patients in the community. So it was a crazy amount of money to be raised in 4 days' time. That was a Monday through Thursday event. New record high of money raised in a penny war, from my understanding. Beat that by almost $1,000. So it was pretty crazy. We had 2 little guys went around kind of their area. They live more in the Tripp area, collecting pennies. And they had 86 pounds of pennies between the 2 of them that they brought in. So it was kind of fun. I was carrying one half of that, and I had 2 other 3rd graders helping me. It was so heavy they dropped it, and we had to pick them all up in the hallway. So it was, I think the bank really helped us out counting all those pennies, because our change counting machine only does 200 pennies at a time. It would have taken us a while. They had, I think, around $160 worth of pennies in that 86 pounds, so it's pretty good. Conferences, I wanted to touch on that. That happened a couple weeks ago, but very well attended. We were only missing a few parents, kind of per grade level, so we're in probably the 95-96% attendance rate. So it's great to see everybody coming out. All the parents here making that effort to spend time to connect with teachers. I think that's making a big difference for us. We're set. We're going to be placing an ad in the paper coming up. We have preschool orientation will be in early March. So I wanted to just announce that at the meeting in case anybody's watching this at home. But March 8th and 9th we'll be doing our preschool registration, or preschool screening event, I'm sorry. And so that event will be, I'll get it posted online as well, but that should be in the paper. And hopefully a good way, so we're kind of making that cycle again of starting to figure out how many preschoolers we'll have coming in, and we'll do our kindergarten screening event in April, and so right back to the beginnings again. So that's kind of it for elementary report. Activities, seasons are wrapping up. Gymnastics just finished 7th at state, which is a really incredible honor. We're going to recognize them tonight at halftime of the boys basketball game and just have them come out so we can just talk a little bit about their accomplishments. So it'll be nice to have them and celebrate some of their successes. Basketball is winding down. We finish our girls regular season this week. Boys have one more game on Monday next week. So we made it through. It's been kind of a crazy last month or so of just getting all the rescheduled games in. Boys just had 4 games last week. And the girls, a couple weeks prior to that, had a 4-game week. And that takes its toll. But I think our teams are playing really well right now and kind of peaking at the right time. We have wrestling regions on Saturday. That's coming up. So lots of good things happening. We also just had 3 of our elementary students participated in a festival choir in Brookings that they had a tryout for. So they did that last week. And I heard the concert was amazing. Talked to a couple of the girls' parents. They said it was an awesome performance. Mrs. Fink was really proud of the girls, so I want to recognize those young ladies as well for their hard work and that experience that they had. So that's kind of where we're at with the winter sports. It won't be long till we're kicking off spring sports with track and golf. So that's kind of where we're at there.
Thanks for all your efforts on rescheduling.
Yeah. It's been unique.
The lower school kindergarten,
Yep.
How are our numbers looking?
For next year's kindergarten? That's a good question. So we're kind of looking at that right now. We have 18 beginnergartners who will be coming up. And then our preschool class, we've had a couple kids move out of there. So we're at, and a couple that are going to move at the end of the year that we know about as well. So we have 32 preschoolers that'll be coming on. So we'll split that group. So our kindergarten sections will probably be a little smaller, somewhere in that hopefully 16 per section. And then beginnergarten kind of being roughly in that 18-ish type range is kind of what we're thinking, but we'll see how that all plays out. And so what we're looking at doing then is we have the 3 sections of kindergarten this year. And so we have one more year of that. And so I've talked with our kindergarten teacher, Miss Roth, and she will transition to first grade. So that we can keep with our kindergarten group at 47. It's the biggest group we have in the elementary. So we can keep them spread out a little bit longer and support and let those kids kind of mature and have a good student-teacher ratio. So that's kind of our plan and what we're going to do to move forward with that.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I don't have a lot for you other than the 5-year capital outlay, just so our goal, working hard to get quotes for you in March and going back to that list. I didn't include that in there, but we've had some conversations. I have quotes on some of the carpet within our vestibules. I'm working on another quote from on the terrazzo to help dress the rest of the floor. That's within the commons area. They're working on our bathrooms at the high school end and making sure that those get refurbished. I'm trying to think, there was one more quote that I had.
Playground?
Was it?
Was it playground? Ground?
I looked at the playground and what that quote was, and I actually emailed him. Prices have actually increased on that, so based on some of what Craig and I know as necessities that to bring back to you guys, that's something that we're going to put on hold for another year yet until we get a few of these other smaller projects that are probably potentially 5-digit, costs, but get some of the scrubber. We need a new floor scrubber, so I'm waiting to hear on a price quote on that. So kind of where we're at, but. Legislative update, there's some things there that have happened here just last week. So Senate Bill 65, which is modifying compulsory age from attendance from 18 to 16, that is still alive. It sounds like there's more favor, I think, at the legislature for that, and they're asking for school districts to weigh in on that. We can sit here all day long and debate whether 18 to 16 and whether that's good or it's bad. Us as educators, I believe, probably innate. It's kind of ingrained in us. It's built in us that we want to save every kid. And I'm not sure that that's a realistic possibility. And some of these districts, especially in the larger districts, these 16-year-olds, 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are not engaging. I mean, there's some school districts, I've heard stories, they've told me that, and they've had this open conversation and dialogue with even legislators that they got criminals in their buildings. I mean, legitimate criminals, or maybe they're waiting for a court date and these kids are being immediately redirected back into school settings, and the disruptive nature of that. And some of these have some physical components to it where they maybe even making a lot of people uneasy, threats, staff, things like that. So, what do we do with these kids? So that's still alive. Senate Bill 182, establishing a uniform method for calculating high school credit. That's still alive. It sounds like that's getting some legs. I think it passed out of the committee, if I remember right, in the Senate side of things. So that'd be our dual credit kids, making sure that right now we give probably dual credits. Let's say they took English 101 first semester, we give it a half a credit. Any one of our courses, if we took a full year of English 4, that's 1 credit. But they're trying to make sure that that alignment at the secondary level, that if they're giving it 3 credits in college, they're taking this course in high school, that there's got to be some sort of equivalency there as far as the number of credits. I don't know that it has a huge impact on us, other than we may have to look at our high school graduation requirements then, as far as if we're going to start giving kids 3 credits of English and we only need 22 to get out of Parkston High School. I mean, we're going to have some dialogue and some conversation about how is that going to trickle down and what we do and what we expect here at Parkston High School. So, House Bill 1075, 1095, and 1096, those are all of the food taxes, just so you're aware. And that's going to be in appropriations right now, and that'll be at the stroke of midnight, see how much money is there. The biggest issue there, again, like I said before, is where's going to be the replacement dollars when you take that off. Because once you take it off, you will never get it back. So I think there's some guys, legislators there that are proceeding with caution on that. House Bill 1163 prohibits the dissemination of obscene materials to minors in public schools and public libraries. I think that got defeated. That's not happening. We don't have people hanging around the corners and school librarians disseminating obscene materials. I'm sorry. It's a point of, I guess, clarification in my point. There's people that actually believe that's happening. It's not happening. So the fact that it was defeated, I think, speaks volumes to that. Here's one, House Bill 1221, provide free school lunches for students. Yeah, I don't think the guy was trying to do that. I think he was commended for his notion on that, but he obviously didn't do the math on that. So when we're talking about federal dollar reimbursement, federal dollars is what, $4.20? $4.40? What do you get for a meal?
Something like that. It's over $4.
It's over $4.
Yes.
And just when you did the math here, just in Parkston, for free, where that money's going to come from, somebody's going to pay for it. It was an astronomical dollar. I think Judy and I sat down actually, and Lisa Klum, and I was down there visiting one day, and I'm like, well, how much is that? We started doing the math, and I started adding up 142,000 kids. I mean, not every kid eats, but just say worst case scenario, it was like $95 million. And you're like, well, where are we going to get that money from? So, but anyway, I thought that was somewhat comical. And then 1234, you maybe got some information on that. Mr. Pohl's been pushing out as the land representative here. I would seriously, if you can make one email to Ms. Baumiller and Mr. Peterson and Mr. Shanefish is on 1234. The voucher component of things and redirecting public funds for the sole purpose of allowing kids to go to private school. If they do that in the state of South Dakota, based on where our alternative instruction students are coming from, I'm guessing that's going to open a Pandora's box, and the public resources that monetarily we're going to lose as public school districts, it's going to be astronomical. I mean, it's not going to bode well for public education. So maybe have different feelings about that. We can have that conversation, but I would encourage you guys to reach out to those 3 legislators and say, please, when it gets to that point, vote against House Bill 1234.
Where is the push coming from on that? I mean, is that, well, obviously the private schools, obviously, but I mean,
well, they really
besides
don't,
that.
yeah. But homeschool, the alternative instruction faction,
How does that?
strong supporter. Well, because then they would end up sending a lot of those kids, they would end up sending them into private school.
Okay.
Instead of keeping them home and educating them, there's a portion of them that would put them in the private setting, because now it's paid for, it's free.
Okay.
So, and then the other one indirectly was a bill that just got defeated, and that was for the foster care children, where they got another voucher essentially to attend private school. There was $15 million in that over a 3-year period of time. That did get defeated and killed in Senate Ed. But that was the governor's office. And it all stems around this concept about parental choice. You as a parent should decide, have the say, which I don't have qualms with, but the aspect of associating dollars with that decision is what's caused public school systems angst. So, good question. Just a reminder, the last one would be, just if you throw out to those three, 8%. The school administrators, lobbyist groups out there are talking to legislators about 8%. The governor proposed 5%. There is a small faction out there that believes we should get more than 5. I've heard numbers when I was out there in Pierre, more like 6, maybe 7. But we want to go for 8 as school administrators of South Dakota and see if we can't get any headway on that. So Craig and I have talked about, we've said this before in public setting, the cost of living, inflation, things of the adjustments. I don't have an exact number. We haven't really sat down on what that impact has been on us. We just know that we have been paying more in every one of our funds in order to keep our, paying our bills and doing what we need to do. So if we want to give our staff, the people who work for you, also an adjustment in their living expenses, is 5% going to get that done even for them? I think some of their expenses have increased by more than that as well. The cost of living, especially food, obviously, type of deal. So it's pretty a vicious cycle right now. So if we can at least say, hey, be supportive of public education, 8%, and maybe it's enough to open a conversation and get people to at least think about it. So that was the last thing. School board election date reminder. I think petitions, you can have them out. It has to be back in the business office by Friday, February 24th at 5 p.m. Don't forget, when you take that petition, you have to get it notarized before and after. Craig, correct me if I'm wrong.
Before you turn it in.
Before you turn it, do you have to get it notarized before you start too?
No, I just sign it.
You do it, okay. Yeah, and then I have a couple thank yous here, just I think still remnants from, and you can kind of look those over and pass them around. So that's what I have for my report. So
Okay,
thank you.
we will move on to discussion items. We are continuing our review of the policy manual. And the first 5 policies we were reviewing here for the first time would be BBF, BBFA, BCA, BCB, BCD.
There's some correlation here actually when I was reading through these. So the first one is board member code of ethics. If you really want to know what your responsibility as a school board member is, there's 28 of them. And it's a short read. If you haven't ever done that, it's pretty something. I would encourage you to do that. And that would have been a greater portion of Mr. Holbeck's conversation of you guys doing a school board retreat, or at least a portion of it. So, but that was interesting. What goes into that is your conflict interest of BBFA. We've known about that and we've talked about that. The disclosure there is still in the monetary value of $5,000. You can't benefit from a direct pecuniary interest, in which we don't have any of those situations. For organizational meetings in July, the stipulations of what should be in that meeting, and then your BCB, your board officers, electing the president, vice president, and then your BCD is your school board superintendent relationship. So I think all of those are very relevant. There's nothing in there that is disagreeable, and for the most part, you do as a board abide by. So those are your first readings on those. So,
The only question I had
Yes, sir.
was, and I don't know if it's.
which one is it,
but,
Mr. Leisure? Again, BBF or
BCA,
BCA? Cool.
where it's the establishment of the committees. I didn't know if we wanted to actually change those to actually what we have, or.
Oh, the
I
actual
realize
names?
it's just an example.
Sure,
I realize
finance,
it's just
curriculum,
an example,
negotiations,
but,
facility, transportation.
it may change.
We're pretty
over
close,
years,
aren't we?
but I think we are, but I don't know that we have, we don't have a finance committee, do we, or? I guess that would be,
Yeah, no, that's.
just a thought. I mean, if you don't think it's that big a deal.
Make
just-
them the ones that we actually appoint.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
I mean,
they-
there was kind of examples of other ones here too, and I
Yeah,
understand
right.
that, but
That's a good point. That's something that, from a policy perspective, we adopt as policy, then come July, that we can go back and make sure in this organizational, that we have them aligned, with what the policy actually says. That's
Yeah.
a good point.
so
So, yeah, we can do that.
that would be the only
Great.
comment or question I would have.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 8, right? What number are on there?
Yeah.
Which one's not on there, when you look at that, would be like bid opening, bid tabulation. We do have a committee for that. There's two people, I'm sure there's 2 people assigned to that, if I remember right. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna address in March. 2 of you, we're not having a board meeting when that happens, but 2 of you certainly could be in attendance on that. Isn't there something in there, Craig,
That's
about
what I was
that?
just gonna look and see
Yeah.
which ones were, that we did.
I thought for sure that
July.
there was, so.
I was at the last one, Craig.
What's that?
I was at the last one when we opened.
The electrical one, yeah, right?
I don't know if that was a volunteer or.
Yeah, right.
We have calendar, let's see, we got calendar committee. Otherwise, boards don't count, like Board of Equalization, those wouldn't be listed in there.
No.
Building and Grounds Committee, Bid Opening Committee, and Personnel and Activities Committee,
Right.
and Curriculum Committee. So yeah, we can match them up to those.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Anybody else have anything else on those? Okay, that is just a first reading. We will move on to discussion item B then, which is the second reading of the ASBSD policies, which this is policies BBBA and BBBB, BBC, BBE, and BBEA. And that was from last month's meetings. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? If not, we'll move on to the third and final reading of policies BA, BB, BBA, BBAA, and BBB. And if nobody has any questions or comments, I'll need a motion to approve these policies be added to the school policy book or
Manual, yep. So moved. And just so you know, I am doing that, so remember when I first came here, I asked you guys from an alignment perspective to help me out because of a lot of different things there that I was unaccustomed to. So we have Symbly, which is a product of Associated School Boards, and we have that subscription. So I'm using that system and going in there and aligning everything as you guys either one, tweak it, I make those changes in there, which I can do, it's all editable, and then once you approve it, then I just sign the date on it, and then it becomes enveloped into our manual. So it's pretty cool.
I'll second it.
Moved by Schoenfelder and second by Prohl to approve the following policies: BA, BB, BBA, BBAA, and BBB. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, we'll move on to item D, building committee update.
In my notes, and Scott was able to attend, and I know you were absent, but it was, and Craig was there. Principals were busy, but I think the gist of the conversation was just doing some finalization on more of the electrical side of things. The electrical engineer was here, wanted to know about placement of certain like outlets and, some of the lighting, I think some of the fire systems, strobe light, I mean, all the things that were potentially electrical. So we had conversations about that. We had previously did mechanical when Mr. DeWitt was here. We looked at a lot of, it kind of took us around the whole building, to be honest with you. And we looked at the plans that they had devised, and there was sheets upon sheets here. So we had some other conversations about things that they were putting, in the building as well, that we asked them to. So Scott, I don't know, maybe you could speak to it, or Craig too. I didn't see anything there that was part of the conversation that made my head scratch, like, oh, where'd that come from? Or, hey, you forgot that component.
No, it was just moving a doorway to match up for code purposes, mostly stuff like that, little minimal things.
Yeah, and to basically put stuff in place so we're not limited in the future.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
we can, if a few extra outlets here, or,
A lot of vision, forethought, questions.
Possibilities of future easy.
you know, while
Access
everything's
to just
open
pulling
or
wire.
whatever,
Yep.
put a extra wire, extra outlet, or whatever in, just so.
But yeah, it was, so back to that timeline then with the plans, they, Mr. Jastrom had said that by the end of that week, so last Friday, that they were gonna be done their planning or their drawings, and they would stamp them and they would give them to Pitts, and they would make those copies and they would send them our way, but Pitts then is going to take them and start putting together the bid packages. Jim was here and roughly said somewhere between 19, 20, 21 different bid packages that are probably going to be incorporated into the project. And just think about every of that, you know, some concrete and general construction, electrical, mechanical. I mean, all of those will be separate different bid packages. And then once they put that together, then they will go gangbusters on their part in the process, and that is start making some phone calls, conjuring up some vendors and business, hey, here's what it is. And then he will work with us, Craig and I, about getting the advertisement to put in the paper. We have to do that for 2 weeks, and then they will put all that stuff out on the exchange as well. But I know we originally said that we're looking at maybe that somewhere between April 7th and April 13th, or not April, but March. Now we're looking at March 20th through the 25th. So perhaps maybe a March 21st to March 24th. They like to open bids on the 21st and the 24th, or Tuesday and a Thursday.
Yeah.
Sorry. So that's what we're hoping and praying for, and I think they felt pretty confident that would allow them enough time and they would be able to do that. So that's usually something that happens like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So back to that bid opening committee, those two people that are on that committee could come, and he said they lay them all out, so meaning 19 different bid packages if that's what comes out of it, and there may be only one guy that bid on that package, who knows, but there may be 10 too, you know, so you have to open up every one of those components and then do all the tabulation, and you'll have a number at the end of that. I mean, you'll be able to keep adding in your head and the math and doing, okay, what's the final number per se? And then they'll take all that stuff back and,
Different than before because construction management compared to a general contractor.
yeah. So,
And then the general contractor, but like I said, John, you know, with the track one, we had one main bid. We opened that package
yeah, this is. gonna
with
be-
alternates on as part of that. Now it's gonna be a bunch of different little, so the electrical one will be a separate bid and so forth.
So it should be very specific.
Mhm.
We should have a good number.
Oh, yeah. When we're done, you just gotta tabulate them all up at that time rather than,
Just keep pushing ahead on the calculator.
and they'll have a spreadsheet where it'll
Yeah.
automatically total it for us and all that stuff too, because that's how they did with the track one too. They had their own, Pitts had a spreadsheet that they typed we typed the numbers in and with the bid alternates and everything right there.
Any questions on that conversation with Arc Inc. and Pitts? So that's the time frame. The other component that we put in the packet there was some information from D.A. Davison. We talked to Jerry Spethman, and you know, I was visiting with Jed and Matt just a little bit before the meeting started, and commend you guys for you know, being cautious, because by what you did doing that back to the December component, whether you should sell them or not, you know, give everybody due credit for that. Mr. Prohl due credit for that, even calling the question, that you saved yourself some money. So within that letter, he describes, you know, what has happened in the last 90 days. And it helped too that your actual numbers then on what your assessed valuation truly was, you know, 506 million versus the 562 million.
56.
What
It's 556 now.
Sorry. Anyway, I mean, that in of itself is going to give you some flexibility in the amount of what, if you ended up selling certificates, and what you could generate on that. So you can see within that information, you passed a referendum for 7.575 million, but in all actuality, with your new assessed valuation for the Parsons School District, you could potentially raise up about 8.3 million if you needed to. And your premium on that obviously was quite a bit more based on the interest rate on that. So, I think financially there was some good news there for you guys. Craig and I was, you have that sheet, sorry, Craig.
I did give it to him, yeah.
Yeah, so Craig wanted to just look at this number, this sheet that we gave you guys here that maybe does a little bit better job of explaining.
The top half was what we gave you back in January, or back in December. The possibilities of 3 different options, sell the full amount prior to January, waiting to sell after bid opening, or sell half and half. And then that bottom half is the new information. So when you look at, the par amount's still the same, but look at the premium differences. And that's all because of where the interest rates are. Now, the interest rates still showed 4%, I believe, on that deal, but it's the premium you're making or saving when you sell those. And that has went up, and it's went up, you can see almost $500,000. So then your total amount, if you were to sell that full par amount that you would have in the bank, is 8.1 at the 7.5 or 7.575.
Yeah. If you sold 7.5 million, you'd actually end up 8.1 in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. So, and then the interest cost down there at the bottom. Now that did go up a little bit more, but you got. So that's just showing you that the interest went up a little bit, but you gained the premium.
Well, part of that too, remember, Craig, that number that you're showing them there, the reason why that maybe was different.
No, this one, the interest is the same.
Good
This
on
is
that
match
one?
up. Yeah,
Was
this
the
is
7 million
was the
versus-
PowerPoint was the difference. Remember?
Yeah, okay.
Yep. But the interest, so the interest rates is just based on how much what they can sell them at, basically, is the difference for their amounts. But that's where the premium comes in. So yeah, the interest cost is up not quite 100,000, but you gained 534,000 or 470,000 in premium. So buying power, basically.
Yeah, buying power.
So, which would help if you wouldn't have to borrow the full par amount, maybe, then, depending on what it all comes in at, but changes that aspect.
So,
Do
yeah,
they
go
think
ahead.
that on the 19 different bids, potentially, that they feel comfortable that we're going to have interest?
Yeah, and Jim spoke to that during the meeting, the fact that, we're within a driving range between Sioux Falls, Yankton, and Mitchell, where there's enough firms that, do this type of work between the 3 that they didn't, he wasn't like jumping up and down type of deal or whatever, but he felt confident between those 3 larger, urban areas that they should be able to garner enough interest in our projects. So, in our project, he felt comfortable with that. Now, with that being said, back to this concept is once you open those bids, they're good for 30 days and 30 days only. So Craig and I visited about what we want you guys to start processing here sooner than later as to, okay, which path are you going to follow here? Start thinking about what happens if the number comes in where they projected it, or if it comes in maybe a little higher, what decisions that you guys are going to end up having to make in order to do that in 2 folds. One, even a decision to accept all the bids that are dealt, and the other one then is, okay, how are you going to go about funding it? Do you want to sell those certificates, and then obviously for what amounts? We can have that conversation too, but it's something to think about. If you have the opportunity, and we're just throwing this out there. What if the scenario is that it came in less than what you a referendum for, the 7.575, and let's say it was around the number, the 6.2 million that they had said. And I'll tell you why that may be a possibility, because I got a little story for you here in a minute, so remind me to come back to that. But if you did that, what if there's one more component that you have all talked about, that from a physical plant perspective, that would essentially put you on where you need to be, and that is, and you've referenced it before, Mr. Pearl, several times, I think even you, Matt, like, we're gonna build a bus or like a garage, a vehicle garage or whatever. Well, if you have the opportunity, if the things come in favorably, and you have the opportunity to sell that amount of certificates, 6.2, and you can raise about 8.1, even if it came in at 7, you have another opportunity, a layer of money that it didn't cost anybody any more than what you originally were going to ask for, that you could maybe do another project, because you have 3 years in which to do that project with, if you
Spend
wanted
that money,
to do
yeah.
that. To spend the money that you get from selling those certificates. So a lot there to process, a lot for you guys to start, thinking about as school board members as to which decisions that you're going to end up wanting to make, one with respect to this project and these bids, and then two, how much money would you like to go out and sell? And Mr. Pearl, you brought this up before, and I respect your mindset on that. Is if you get to that point, maybe it's a little more even. Do you want to start having the conversation, or the thought processes? Do you want the public to have a say? Even though you are well within your rights still yet, and let's say the number comes in on capital outlay, but do you want them to have a say? And Craig and I talked about that a little bit today, like what if we wanted to do that? What if you guys wanted to do that? If you still were uncomfortable about that process and that notion, the community not necessarily having a full conversation about it, which they had an opportunity, I get that. But if you wanted to take it to a vote of the people, you still could do that. But
65 days.
65 days is
The process.
in order to take it to the public, and your bids are only good for 30. So it doesn't mean it couldn't be. It doesn't mean it couldn't be rebid again, but it's going to cost you some more.
To meet all the publication deadlines and stuff, they have 20 days to refer it, because they would still have to refer it even though it's under, somebody would. So you got 20 days to wait on that. And then after that, it takes 45 days to do all the publications and all that stuff and have the actual election. That's where the 65 days comes about.
Would that be the same regardless bond or certificate? Yeah, right? Same thing?
Yeah.
Bond or certificate, if you wanted to do that. Right?
Yeah.
So just, again, we wanted to make sure that it was food for thought for you guys, because what we didn't want to have happen to you guys is, okay, March 21st comes along, you open the bid, and then there's still this level of uncertainty, and then, well, let's just wait till next month. Well, when that happens, your time clock starts ticking. So start processing and thinking about what decisions you may want to make, ahead of time, when that process starts rolling. So back to my story, good news story.
Yeah.
So I was visiting with Mr. Siddick, who is superintendent in Baltic, and he's retiring after 45 years. They just did a bond for $29 million for a brand new high school and some other things around their complex. And they opened up their bids at the end of January, and it came in at $26 million. It was less than the $300 a square foot. It was about $275 a square foot. Now they're 20 miles from Sioux Falls. I get that, but it seemed to be a little bit, I felt favorable. That was kind of a good news, a shot in the arm for me when he told me that, and I'm like, ooh, maybe we got a shot. 22,000 square foot, even at $300 a square foot, you're still looking at that
Or just over 6.
$6 million. So maybe, I don't know, hope, pray, take what you.
That's why we were also thinking about other things too, and bringing up other ideas.
Project-wise, so.
Because another thing that Jed brought up during the 5-year capital outlay you guys did is, maybe the playground
Yeah.
too.
Bigger ticket.
Yeah, bigger ticket items that are going to be tougher to do down the road because you're tied without raising taxes.
Yep.
I'm not saying you couldn't do them, but you might have to raise taxes a little bit here and there in order to get a bigger ticket item done at that time. Where I just don't foresee a lot of big ticket items after that, unless baseball or something like that comes into play down the road. You know,
You have to develop a complex
Yeah.
then, so.
that's just a lot of dirt work. I don't know.
So,
Thoughts?
yeah.
I mean, for things for you guys to think about.
I beat you over the head with a lot of information, so.
Can I bring up one more with the PowerPoint that you brought up earlier? Okay. So remember when we talked to the people and we talked about that 60 cents? Okay. Remember that 60 cents all was based on 7 million. Okay. When you did the resolution, it's 7.5. So in the long run, I just want people to know, you know, that information all was based if it was at 7 million. Okay. At that time. And so, you know, we're thinking that, I think in that PowerPoint, it still showed us, or I still showed 400 and, I want to say 466,000 a year you could get by on. Well, in order to get by, that payment was like 509. Well, if you see this payment's 579 because of the 7.5 million. Okay, I'm just bringing that up to you guys' attention as well.
Transparency.
Okay, transparency with the public, because they're gonna say, well, 60 cents, you said 60 cents. Well, the 60 cents at that
It's
time
on 7 million.
was on 7 million, because that was prior to the January, prior to what we knew what our taxable valuation was, even the preliminary taxable valuation at that time.
Yeah.
And now our taxable valuation even went higher because it went up to 566. But I just want you to know, 60 cents, 70 cents, I think 70 cents would be the equivalence of about that difference of 509 to
That's what I was gonna
579.
Yep.
Another dime.
We did.
Yep, another dime.
We did sit down and figure that out.
And for a homeowner, what did we say? That was another $25.
$25.
Yeah, or something like that.
A year.
Yeah.
I can tell you what she equated it to, but.
Because of the 250,000, yeah, it was easier math to do that way. But
And on these,
Probably more than you can.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. 25.
and on these amortization schedules that he sent out
Yeah.
with the mill levy there, that does not include the stadium coming off, correct?
That's correct. So but my 466,
That did. But I
yeah.
was just looking at these mill levies. estimates.
Yes. Yep. This is what it would need to make that payment. We're
Right.
reallocating some of the stuff that we already
Right.
taxed for
Right.
because we don't have any ticket items, or
Yeah.
limiting, knowing that we're going to have to back our way into the ticket items
Uh-huh.
each year to get to that 466.
You'll have access to another 132,000 in 2 years.
But we figure that 466 is about what we're doing right now with the capital, with the QZAP bonds and all of that stuff currently.
That's how much we are
466.
spending.
Yeah, what we are spending or have been spending.
Good.
And that's why I'm comfortable with that number. And, could it be lower for a year or two? Possibly, yeah. But I just wanted to be transparent. That 60-cent thing was based on 7 million to get to that dollar amount. And the payment on that 7 million was 509.
Yep.
And this one's 579, or all the way up to 635,000 if you went with the full amount of 8.3 million that you could change that capital outlay certificate to without referring it to a vote, because that's 8.3 million. That's still under the 1.5% of the taxable valuation. New taxable valuation.
You said this was 509 in that presentation?
In that PowerPoint presentation, yes. But notice when we did all this stuff that I did in December up here
That was on.
was based on what you guys did the resolution for.
And maybe with the 19 different packages, when I think about it here, I think that that's probably good. Because then you might get people that specialize, and they can fine tune their bid a lot more
Yeah.
compared to if you come in
general.
with stuff.
And that's exactly what Jim said on Tuesday, a week ago. That's the whole premise behind that, is that, plus their relationship with a lot of those vendors, that they can get it more succinct.
Right.
Instead of just throwing a bid in, because a lot of times, and they admitted to this,
They'll subcontract it out, right?
well, that or they're throwing in bids at the stroke of midnight because it's due tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh, geez, I haven't even looked at that yet.
Just
Here's
throw out a
bid.
number.
They'll throw you a number, and it's like, okay, this has the tendency to be, again, a little bit more narrow in focus, more succinct, and you're working with vendors who they work with traditionally, and the number is probably more real and true. as
Those
to what
guys
it
don't
could
have to give it
cost.
to a general, and then the general has to turn around and get it to us. They can just all have the same amount of time to get it done.
Yeah. So hopefully that pays dividends. And the last thing I would say is just so, let's say this whole thing just falls apart on us and it comes in numbers that are, just makes your head scratch and, shakes your head and like, geez, I don't even know, you guys have to have that conversation. But, between the two firms that have helped us out to this point, I mean, the expenditure on that and your bills that you've paid, you're probably about $125,000 to both firms at this point in time into the process. So between Arc Inc. and Pitts.
So, on the ground out here, I always have a little concern about that yet, but we feel comfortable.
I did bring that up, and Pitts and Arc Inc. and knowing what they're dealing with the state of South Dakota, they said that's common. They didn't have any issues with that. And I said, well, gee, we got to excavate 3 foot down. A recommendation from Geotech, and then they're like, that happens all the time. So nothing new to them, and did not cause great concern. 1, financial, or 2, stability-wise.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, anything else? Good on that?
Yep, no, I think we're good there. Appreciate the opportunity to
Thanks,
speak
Craig,
to
for
the-
the
Okay, we'll move on to item E. Consider 23-24 school calendar date changes.
So this, and I put some information in your packet too about a survey that the school calendar committee wanted to have feedback on from teachers. So what you see there is, it is representative of what the teachers were asking for based on that survey. So we have a combination of early outs. The information on that was very well received. Couple that with our developmental days that associates or correlates with all of our state tournaments and give people opportunities if there was a necessity to do that. And with our regular other holidays, vacation, and our parent-teacher conferences, you're still looking at a school calendar that has contact days with kids, totality of 169, and if the teachers have to come in on 3 of those 7 work days, that gets them to their 177. If they worked every one of them, they'd be working 180. But we only require them or expect them to do 3 to get to the 177 based on their contract. So it's similar to what it was this year, but a few changes. I think some nuances there I think will be favorable. If you look at September, we have an early out on the 27th. We turn around the next day on the 28th and have some parent-teacher conferences, and that correlates into a comp day for your staff. And then it just happens to align with the state golf tournament on the Monday. So a potential parent or somebody, because there's no school on Friday or kids are not expected to be in school on Monday, you're looking at that extended day for somebody to potentially do something. And there's another scenario there that happens in February. 7th, 8th, and 9th is essentially the same thing. Early out, parent-teacher conferences, and then a comp day. So, questions on the school calendar. There was a little error at the very bottom left-hand corner. It says -4 days, and over to the right, underneath the colored, it said 3. And that was my fault. I didn't correct that at the very bottom left-hand corner, but that should say 3. I've corrected it now.
So February 7th, there's nothing listed here, but you said that was that in service?
Yeah, so that should have been in service, and there was the blank slot in there, and I noticed that too, so I did fix that, so, on the color there. So 7th would be in service, 8th parent-teacher conference, 9th comp day for the teachers that go till 9 o'clock that night, so.
Okay.
hopefully no more snow days.
Yeah, and so one of the stipulations you can see on there, it says all teacher development days are options for recovery of student contact days due to inclement weather. So if that happens in the midst of like it did this year, not ideal, but I understand the necessity of it. Rather than putting one on at the end of the day, we'll recoup them. We'll take those developmental days and say, guess what? We're going to school, period. Now everybody knows ahead of time. That's how we're gonna address that, so if you want to call built-in snow days, there they are. So,
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Do you need us to
I
approve
would
this?
like you guys
Okay.
to adopt that if you would, please.
So I'll accept the motion to approve the 23-24 school calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pearl and seconded by Turner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, on to item F, strategic planning proposal.
So as I put in my notes there, we've had accreditation meetings with Department of Ed and looking at what is expected us in school improvements and having some struggles locating evidence, so to speak, in through an accreditation process. The school, Berkshire School District has always been what back in the day an NCA accreditation review, advanced ed. That's the name it changed into. Now it's a Cognia. Last year was the first year of that process. If it would have taken place and it would have been Cognia, people coming in and taking a look at your system. With me being brand new and me having lived that process in my other district 3 different times, it became very evident to me that I didn't feel that we were in a position, and quite honestly, I transitioned out of that larger association's accreditation process. I found it to be very large, very cumbersome, and what the byproduct was or the end product was something that oftentimes just got put on a shelf and it wasn't adhered to. It didn't become a living, breathing, working document. So we didn't do that. Moving forward, knowing that we have an accreditation coming up a year from now, and that's something that we so desperately want and you need to be accredited by your State Department of Education. One of the concepts there is strategic planning. Looking at this larger mission, vision, purpose statement, and then aligning everything that you do to support that. It became evident through conversation, I think, between Mr. Fisher, Mr. Knipley, myself, even with the staff, that that's, again, another concept that does not abide. It doesn't bind us to anything that we do within the system here. So, because we have to have a school improvement concept according to accreditation, Department of Ed, we would like to go through that process from a strategic planning perspective too. I feel comfortable school improvement, I've done that before, but the greater picture of strategic planning has more concepts like perception surveys from teachers, student, parents. It's data collection of looking at things on a larger scale. I've lived it once, but I'm really not equipped. I don't have the tools and the resources to do that. So I asked Tom Oster from Dakota Educational Consulting, who you used to find your new superintendent, still does probably a greater 90% of the admin searches across the state of South Dakota, but also does strategic planning as well. So he submitted this proposal that I included in your packet. And you can kind of see the timeline that he has associated with that. He felt confident that he could come in and help us with this process to point us in a direction based on all the information that he would glean in the process that we'd go through to help us find our purpose. And the same token, then we can align that with what our school improvement plans are going to be. So I know it's a little bit of a late ask, but didn't realize I'd find myself in this situation where I knew school improvement, I knew accreditation, but the strategic part of it, the more I talked with principals about this concept of what is our why, and people not knowing, staff not knowing, students, parents not knowing what our true why is, could we do both? And I've talked to some other people, I visited with Tom, he felt it was doable, that we're not biting off more than we can chew there, because he will help with that process. I'm just not comfortable with it. Could we do school improvement standalone? Yeah, we could. Can we get that done in time a year from now and have things in place? I think we can. If we're not comfortable with the strategic planning process and the dollars associated with that, which I think was at $7,700, I think, in his bid or his quote, in order to do that, again, it would be out of the 23-24 budget year. I certainly understand that. And I could live with either way. It's just something I felt, knowing how we were going to have to move forward with this process, something that for you guys to consider. Yeah, questions, I guess, about what strategic planning is, what the byproduct or the end product is, what's the goal. I mean, I'll try to answer it the best I can. And Mr. Knipling or Mr. Fisher potentially could chime in as well too, because we've had these conversations as an admin team. So, anybody have anything about the concept of strategic planning?
How often do you have to do it, Mr.?
So
It's not a yearly ongoing thing.
A typical strategic plan, if we were doing it, still the old NCA Advanced Cognia approach, that is a 5-year cycle. Strategic plan, essentially, I would say on average is a 5-year cycle. School improvement, on the other hand, can be much more a shorter time span. Anywhere from, I think 1 year is not enough. You can't move the needle in anything in education in 1 year. I mean, if it is, it's limited. So we always took the approach that there was a 3-year span of time. If we wanted to target in on a math or an ELA or a science goal and be intentional about it, we'd usually put it in place for a 3-year span. But that's school improvement. For strategic planning is that larger 10,000 foot view. So 5-year, average 5 years, Craig. And it's been 2018, it's been 5 years since you did it, going on 6.
The improvement plan or the strategic plan or both?
The strategic.
What did they do back then?
Back then, it was advanced ed.
And we were paying $1,500 a year to be a member
To be a member of advanced
of
ed.
that.
And we're not anymore?
No.
No. Based on that, when they explained earlier.
Okay.
This can be reoccurring, this 7814.
So I think
Or
once
what's your thoughts?
after 5 years, once we've been through the process of a strategic planning, I have confidence in Mr. Fisher, Mr. Knipling, and myself to reevaluate that plan and create a process of review by us rather than using an outside agency to help you take a look at that. Because now we'll have access to potential resources. We know what it is, we know what it looks like, we know what types of questions to ask and information we want to glean out of a strategic planning process to help guide us forward. So there always is the option, you could turn around again, Jed, there's lots of guys that hang their shingle out there about, yeah, I'll do that for you. And here's how much it costs. And I trust Mr. Oster and Dakota Educational Consulting. Again, it's no secret that I've known the guy for 35 years and he's my mentor, type of deal. But they create a good end product that it has value, and it won't go on a shelf, and it will be a guiding, living, breathing document that Mr. Fisher, Mr. Knipling, and myself will hold staff accountable for. It's not going to be done through the process and set on the shelf like it's traditionally been done. And that's not critical of Parkston.
Oh, yeah.
That's done everywhere. Me included when I was doing, that's why I quit doing it.
Very good.
Thoughts?
Well, if you break this down, it's
around 1,500. I mean, over the 5 years,
Right.
it's back in that $1,500 that we were paying.
Advanced it.
And maybe not ongoing after that.
Right. Right.
No. No. I mean, if it has value, I mean, what do you guys think?
I think it's really important to have for us. I mean, with us being new and just having that vision and what we're working towards, so that when we're talking about school improvement, that we can come back to our why. I mean, I think it's really hard to like sell an agenda if you don't have your why of really truly why you're doing it. And I don't know, from asking people, I don't know that we have a clear why. You know, we have a couple sheets that hang on the wall, but I don't think it's something necessarily that we live by right now. And I think having a strong strategic plan could be that thing that could guide us and be how we live here in this district, I think.
And I think too, just the whole process will lead to a lot of discussions that I know are gonna make our school district better. You'd be amazed at the conversations that come about amongst all the people in the district, you know, staff, administration, all the stakeholders. And you'll find that there's value in just the common understanding that comes from all of us being in the same mindset. When everybody feels like they're a part of it, that'll be a bonus too. So yeah, I believe in it. I think it's good.
I don't think it sounds like a bad idea.
Okay.
Our job is to improve the school and take steps to make the school a better place. So.
What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, no, I think you guys asked the questions I was going to ask. How many, does this involve a lot of meetings?
There will be a few, but we'll have one of the surveys, one of the questions that I asked, and I think you guys got shorted the first question, but the last question on the survey that I put in your packet was, are you interested in serving on an individual school or district school improvement committee? And I want you all, we won't divulge the results of that, but there was enough people there that I believe, and I have the second sheet of that, and it was names. So we will reach out to those people and bring them on that team in order to do that, John. So you guys as school board members, certainly the invitation is there, but knowing you're all working school board members and you have lives outside of that, I've seen where strategic planning, where the school, there's one member or two, or there's been none. I think the main thing for you guys to understand is that it'll always come back to you for update, information, approval. You guys are gonna be the final say as to what happened in the process, what's the end product of this process. Because it's always gonna come back to you as a school board.
So that was we did this a number of years ago, but we did a community strategic plan.
Sure, yeah.
And it was good, and we had a lot of participation and a lot of meetings, but then it just got shelved. So that's the concern I have here, is that it's not going to get shelved.
It won't. I promise you, because I've lived that long enough, and I don't operate that anymore, that way anymore, and that's what I shared with the staff on Friday. You know, so we had a work day, and I came in, and just about everybody was there, so we had this conversation about what the expectation is moving forward, that it will become living, breathing, guiding document rather than, okay, we got that done. Okay, everybody just go back and do what you were doing.
Because I agree, it's nice to have everybody on the same page.
Yeah, I equate it to rowing the boat, right? We're all in the boat, same, but for the oars are going different directions, we're not really getting anywhere. So, but yeah, I mean, and I talked with Adam and Cole about this whole concept, and I think all of us are really in alignment about if we go through something like this, then you will see it become that living, breathing document, and school improvement will align to what the expectation of that is. And that too will become a living, breathing process.
Okay, do you need a
Motion to accept the proposal.
motion to accept the proposal from Dakota
Education
Consulting for strategic planning purposes to be billed in the 23-24 school year?
Yes, sir.
So move.
Moved by Schoenfelder,
I'll second.
second by Turner. In the amount of, what is it, 7814 is a change?
Yeah, 1440.
I'll put that in there too. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So we'll keep you updated. If anybody wants to serve on that committee, please let me know. And we can make sure that we accommodate your schedule. And do you have to be at every one? No. We'll make it work if it's truly something that you think, well, this would be kind of interesting. So it'd be helpful to somebody, but I certainly don't have an expectation because of what you all do, so.
Okay, moving on to item G, school board appreciation.
Just wanted to take the time, guys, and it's School Board Appreciation Month. We, token of our appreciation from the district's perspective, I think last year we kind of did this well, but you know what, it's not much, but it's something. It's, you don't get rich out of this, and you get a few dollars maybe for doing that, but some of the grief that you take sometimes doesn't equate to how people truly feel about your guys' opportunities or your commitment to serve. So I got a little certificate, hang it on your wall, do whatever you want to, but there's also a little gift card there for you guys to buy a sandwich, buy a pizza, whatever you want to do with that. That's Scott, that's you, it's got your name on it actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. So I think that's Jed. Mr. Pearl, here's yours. And then Mr. Leishner, here's yours, and then I'll get Miss Nebel hers.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. I truly, don't thank me, thank you guys for serving on this, and hopefully people will, are appreciative of your efforts, and that doesn't matter. You guys all know, any board, any city council, county commission, it's all thankless, but people have to do it, otherwise, those levels of government don't move forward. Nobody wants to do anything anymore, so we truly appreciate your guys' efforts. So.
Okay, we'll move on to action items. Approve financial report.
Yes, so
That should be your colored copy.
this one here. Everything's looking, general fund wise, pretty consistent to last year, January of 2022. So that's a good thing. Special education is still holding strong, and of course the lunch is growing. It's the new process that we're doing hasn't taken place yet. We aren't seeing any of those, those changes yet, because that will be the next reimbursement that I did.
Point of clarification on that, Mr. Bruni, too, we did clarify to the public on what we'd see.
Yes, Monday and Tuesday because of the first day and last day of the first and last day of the week, because the last day of the week did not, the preschool kiddos, we didn't take into consideration Monday, Wednesday group, Tuesday, Thursday group.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
See, last year we just went last day of the week because it was Fridays and preschool wasn't here, and kindergarten wasn't here, so it didn't matter. And I didn't think that through. So we moved it to Mondays and Tuesdays. So, just so you know, and that's the rationale why.
Yep.
Because now the Monday group gets a bonus, and so does the Tuesday group
That's good.
for the rest of the year. So,
That's good.
okay, or not necessarily the rest of the year, I apologize, till further notice.
Great.
Till it's been down.
Yeah. So,
So our cash at the bank here is getting a reasonable interest rate, correct?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I've got that spreadsheet here to tell you the exact, we look at the South Dakota Fit rate that every time. Now remember, so taxes only come in twice a year.
Right.
So it's kind of changed in the lump sum. So last month I didn't actually do a new savings, but this month I should be able to do another one as well. But May I'll have 3 of them to do again, and then type of deal because of the amount. What's that?
4?
That's what I was gonna look. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was 398, I think, the last time, but I did it January 11th. I want the spreadsheet, not that. 395 was the one in January.
And that's on a CD, correct? When you say you do a new one, you do a...
Saving, we put them, what I do is I take $200,000 and put in a savings account.
Okay.
A special savings account, which they typically, and it's based on a number of days. So we gotta leave it in there for X amount of days.
Okay.
And, the number of days, the length of days determines the rate sometimes. The longer the days, then the higher the rate is gonna be. But that's kind of the problem sometimes with the taxes coming in the way they are now at 2 different times mainly only, where you get a big amount, like 500,000 that, and then you can take 400 and put it in. Those 2 months, I usually do 4 to 6. And then your days, the first one might be a little lower than the last one because of the number of days. And like I said, the number of days are tracked here. It's anywhere from, the ones I have currently are anywhere from 200 days up to 293 are the lengths right now of the ones that are out there. And when you look at this invested part, that's what I'm talking about by the invested part down there.
Okay.
When's our last ESSER money coming, Craig?
Last estimate coming in.
As soon as we ask for it.
Yeah, I haven't, I did not do one last month, but there hasn't been a lot of, it'll probably be after, when is the last time, was it 24, right? It's gotta be expended by?
So by October of 2024, we have to have everything accounted for, dollars and cents wise. We have to have expended everything at that point in time that we receive.
But this project here, as soon as you ask,
Oh, the HVAC project? As soon as you get it that month. But there hasn't been a lot going on right now. We had a $12,000 deal. I didn't go out and get that 12,000, but I probably need to next month here and get that because interest rates are better now. So why let,
right?
you know what I mean? So, but I did not do a reimbursement. They take a little longer too with the state. They gotta ask you for copies of receipts and stuff like that with the ESSER funds where they do for lunch and title and stuff like that.
Okay, any other questions on the financial report? I'll ask for a motion to approve it then.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pearl and seconded by Schoenfelder to approve the financial statement as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And we will move into recess before executive session, and if there's anything else.
Nope.
Just like to ask, or make one comment on the, and I know we approved it, the $5,000. We want to make sure we send a thank you.
Yes.